All right. Um, we seem to be up. All right. I wanna get on with stuff. All right. So this is where I was last night. If I got too tight to continue. Oh, what? Get out from under my bum. You're the back pillow, not the bum pillow. Get out. That's better. Okay, we can work like that. Okay, so let me just walk through what I'm doing. Crazy day today, there's a lot of new stuff going on. Okay, so what is this? This is a search box for log messages. It's wired up, it functions, it works. This is a drop down or an input. What do they call them in Unity? Yeah, no, they call them drop down. I know them as combo boxes. I should get familiar with the. Let's change the way we. Yeah, I know that from Visual Basic. So I abbreviate them to CMB for combo box because that's how I used to do it back in the Visual Basic days. But let's stop being a dinosaur and call them DRP for drop downs because that's what they're called these days. I don't know if Visual. Well, there's no such thing as Visual Basic anymore. It's now Visual Studio, really. Windows Forms. I think they're called drop down in Windows Forms. Anyway, I'm waffling. That's beside the point. These are drop downs, and what we're going to do is we're going to add unique game objects and unique systems to these combo boxes, which will allow the messages to be filtered specific to those game objects and or components. So this is systems, but really it's like classes, right? So we're using stack trace to trace the stack to find out where these messages came from, right? This is going to be vastly helpful. These are all things that I've wanted in all my Unity games but could never be asked to make them. So now I'm forcing myself to stop being a stupid idiot and actually build a bunch of core systems which are actually going to be vastly useful, that can stay the same for all future projects, and then we have those tools at our disposal then. So let's just hit play and you'll see what this does. So if I hit play, at the moment we have a message that says query message test that comes from log query. And if we click that, we get a little pop-up that says, okay, the game object that sent this is called log find. The script it came from is logquery.c#, and the line it came from is line 13. So this is the stack tracing functionality, right? My filter works, so if I put, I don't know, run, PC Protect not running, if I type run in log messages, then I can find that message by typing in there. So that works. So now the next thing I want to happen is I want to be able to. So you see, this one came from log find, this one came from core, and this one also came from core. So what I want log find and core to be automatically added in here because those are the two game objects we've heard from so far, and the systems we've heard from would be what's in these parentheses here, log query and PCP. These are the two systems we've heard from so far. So the systems box should say log query and PCP, and if I select either one of these, it will filter these messages either from the system, right, the custom class, or the game object that sent the message. Because sometimes you'll have a system running on 1,000 game objects, so system isn't really enough. But if you say, okay, I want the, I don't know, I want the car driving system in a racing game, right, with 100 cars in it. And then you can say, okay, well, there's 100 cars here. Which one do we want? We want whatever. Nigel Mansell's. Boom. There we go. And then we can get it straight away then. So this is like vastly better than Unity's built-in system, which is the whole point. But I also just thought of something. I should also probably... I think I should have a way to completely clear the log. Just for when it starts flooding and getting unmanageable and we want to do like a second iteration test or whatever. So if I just shrink these controls a little bit to give us room for a button, and then what we can do is we can go to our log window, we can go UI legacy button, and we'll call this button clear, because at the moment we do have a clear function for it, but what clear does is it clears the list so that we can then apply a filter and then just show the filter. But I want a clear button that actually gets rid of all those messages completely, because what you'll typically do in a game or whatever is you'll test something. So I don't know, let's say we're testing an invisible wall, right? Just as an example. Okay, we put an invisible wall here and we want something to happen when the player bumps into it. So what you'll do is you'll run into the wall and then you'll be looking for a message. But then something goes wrong, or you'll be like, oh shit, no, I didn't. I forgot that the test was actually running into an invisible wall whilst you're aiming your bow. And that's a great example, right? Let's say that at the moment the game was letting you walk through invisible walls if you were aiming your bow. And we're like, oh shit, that's not good. Okay, so then as an idiot, you run into the wall and you're like, oh, well, where's the message that didn't work? You got 60 messages on your screen, and then you're like, oh, that's right. I've got to be aiming my bow at the same time. So that's when you hit this clear button here, and you can be like, okay, let me try that again and remember to aim my bow. So this button will let me clear it, and then do the test again, and then I've only got those messages to deal with then. So that's what this is going to be for. So clear. All right. So button clear. We don't need to change anything on that text. Alright, so let's set that up then. So if I go into my log, my call log system. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is make a list, make two lists in fact. So we're going to do a private list. Good lord. A private list of strings. So I'm going to call rec objects for received objects. And I'm going to do rec systems for received systems. What am I looking at there? And then what we also need to do is link the button and the drop down boxes. So we need a public drop down DRP. We'll call them the same thing. Always good to call things the same things that you've called them over here, right? If you call them the same things as what they are in your hierarchy, then you don't get confused about what's what. So DRP objects is our drop down objects box, which is just a link. So we just semicolon on that. We want another one for, and it already predicted what I wanted, but I hit the wrong freaking key. Ah, where do I keep hitting that key? What is happening? All I pressed was Control and Z. Why is everything highlighted? Good God, I'm having one of those days already. We just woke up. Right, let me just clear that out because it's being a little bitch. Right. Yeah, literally, you know what I want. Just do it. Okay, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. And now a public button, which is the button clear, right? Alright, so let's get those linked in the inspector. So we save our script. In core, we should see, again, a whole bunch of errors I need to clear as well. I need to fix somebody else's broken code. This is rewired being a bitch. I've got to fix that. The nice thing is we only have 2 drop downs in the entire universe right now, so we can just link those here actually. There's objects, there's systems, and button, we don't have that many. Button clear. There we go. They're all linked. We need to add a listener for button clear. So in awake, we shall do right. What is the exact syntax for this? I'm new to doing it this way. It's a much better way of doing it though. There it is. Add listener, then it's open. I knew it was something weird. Open parenthesis, then another open parenthesis. We basically, yeah. Why is it like that? That's really weird. Okay, but that's the syntax, and then we call the method we want to call. We don't have one yet. So let me paste that in because that's kind of confusing. Right, and then we can, because it's just a single button, we don't need to send anything like a button back, so this can be blank, but the function needs to make sense, so we'll do on button clear. So we'll call it on button clear. So now I need to make an on button clear. We'll put it here. So it can be a private void on button clear. And then what we'll do, we already have a clear function, which is this log clear. Yeah, and that will do what we want, because at the moment log clear, we can't clear the log. I know it sounds confusing. It's like, well, why are you only adding a button to it now? If you've already called that function, you must be clearing it. Yeah, we are clearing it, but we're clearing it to then display the search results. So I don't have a way as a user right now to keep it cleared, but with this button now I do. So that's literally all we need to do, because I already wrote the code for it. It's great. So now on button clear, we'll clear the log and keep it cleared. We won't fill it with search results because there's probably no search results to fill it with. So now we want to do something similar, but we want a drop down changed listener for the drop down boxes. So we can do drop down objects. But hang on, we are getting ahead of ourselves. It's fine. On value changed, add listener, and then it's brackets nothing method, which is weird. That's probably because you can put something in there, but I'm not sure what you would put in there. Yeah, I'm still a bit unclear with these. We're brand new to this, that's why. I always used to do it where I would feed the on click event in the inspector. I didn't know any other way of doing it. And then I would activate a game object or something and then look for that game object activation and then do code like that. But my God, you can cut all of that out and just add the listener with one line of code and then make a method. It's great. I'm so new to it. I'm not used to this syntax. I don't know that much about it. There's not much to know, to be fair. Right, so we could do on object change is kind of what this is. We don't need to pass anything to it, so we can just leave it like that. And the same goes for drop down systems. So drop down systems on value changed, add a listener for this. I'm going to fast lambda expression on system change, send nothing to it but call the method, and semicolon's your uncle. Probably is somebody's uncle, probably like an apostrophe's uncle or something. Okay, so we want 2 voids now, so we'll do a private void and we want on object change. Type what I'm typing, you piece of shit. It actually is, but it was vomiting all over my thing and I couldn't see what the hell was happening. So there's our on object change. We want the same thing. We'll copy and paste. We'll do an on system change. All right, so now we have a function for when we change the value in those drop downs. Okay, perfect. So let's test that for now. Make sure we can clear the log. We have compilation errors. We probably need to know the value, don't we? We probably need to send it the value, I would think. Yeah, I think what it's saying is, look, we have data here that we need to send somewhere. Which would be the value, because yeah, obviously, like, duh, I'm going to need to know what was clicked, right? Which one was selected. So I imagine this is because we need to send value somewhere. So let's just see if I can figure this out. We don't put it there, which is where I would expect to put it. Do we put it in here? No. Okay, let's learn. Let's learn. Let's ask ChatGPT. Let's ask ChatGPT to teach us. Teach me, oh master. Okay, I'm trying to add listener methods for drop-down change. And I assume I need to store and send the value somewhere. It's not how you spell somewhere. How do I do that? Yeah, ChatGPT will know instantaneously, because this is all quote unquote basic stuff, right? It's just that it's not the way I'm used to doing it. So it's, to me, it's new, even though it's actually the best way of doing it. But it's because I just figure things out for myself a lot of the time. That's why. So if I see something and I'm like, oh, what does that do? And I'll just try it, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then if I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this, and it's a bit convoluted, but it works, then I'm like, that doesn't matter. I've solved the problem. Let's move on to the next thing. But yeah, like, I'm getting better all the time, so I'm always finding better and quicker ways of doing things. And, you know, if I'd have gone through some big ass course where you learn the fundamentals or whatever, I probably would know something like this, because this is like one of the earlier things you would teach, how to do like event handlers and listeners and stuff like that. But because I just jumped in the deep end and I just learn everything myself, something like this that I probably should know, I actually don't. But we're learning it now, so it's fine. It's just that I do everything backwards, that's why. I'm a backwards ass motherfucker. But, you know, it works for me. It works for me. And I think that's why I'm a slow learner. I think my brain literally is backwards. And so this is, I think, another reason why, like, I always feel like I'm slow to grasp things. But then once I fully get it, I fully understand everything. Here's a great analogy. I don't know how true this is, but I think there's some truth in this, right? Let's say you have a skill. And this is how most people learn skills. If you imagine those hashes represent the difficulty of a skill, this is how most people learn, which makes perfect sense. I wish I could learn like that. My brain doesn't work like that. My brain says, I want to know how to do this. So then it's like, okay. And we spend 6 months getting to there. And then we might be like, okay, now I want to do this. And then eventually, somewhere later down the line, we're like, oh, look at that. Now I can do this. Oh, look at that. Now I can do this quicker. Oh, look at that. Now I can do this. It's like my brain works in reverse. Like, not completely in reverse. More like this, where we'll want to do something more advanced. And then we just kind of pick up some of the, like, earlier things along the way. And I feel like this is why I'm slow to grasp things sometimes, because I'm not trying to grasp. I refuse to grasp the little plebeian things, because I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm a stubborn piece of shit. And so I'll struggle with the bigger chunks, but then once I've got them, then I'm like, oh hell, I'm fucking good to go. But then sometimes I'll like miss some of the fundamental stuff, so it's like I'm my own worst enemy, 100%. Okay, I need to say in Unity as well. Listener methods in Unity. Alright, let's add ask ChatGPT. You're on the right track to handle the on value changed events for drop downs in Unity and store or send the selected value. You can access the value property of the drop down. So we've got our drop down. Oh, so it's a delegate. Yeah, I kind of do remember something like this. So let's just grab these and look at them ChatGPT is a godsend, though. It really is. It's just like a better Google. Okay, so the only thing that's different is, so before, oh, we even use different symbols here. But yeah, we basically declare a delegate, lambda expression, this delegate. Then we call our function and we pass the game object back through to it, but then I assume that needs to change our method as well, right, to take an input. Okay, it's given me two very nice functions here. Let's take a look at those. I don't want the debug.logs because we've got our own logging system. It kind of makes Unity debug.log redundant somewhat. On object change drop down in selected index equals drop down.value. This gives the index of the selected option. Okay, yeah, it seems happy with that. Okay, I'm jumping ahead though because at the moment there's nothing to select because we haven't been building the systems. So here's what we can do there, right? So basically, here's our stack trace, okay? You can see it here. And this is where we find out about the game object name, the message, the script name, the line number, the class name, blah, 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 blah. So what we can do after we've returned our new message is we can look at these inherited values and do some sanity checks, right? So it should be this simple. Whenever I start a sentence like that, it always ends up being way more complicated than it needs to be. But no, this should be fine. So what we want to do is we want to find out if this object or system is already in our list. If it is, then we don't do anything. If it's not, then we add it, right? Also, when we clear the log, we want to clear. Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. So we clear the messages. What we also want to do is we want to clear our drop downs. So if we can say drop down objects, I'm going to just clear options, and then drop down systems, clear options. Okay, so what we can say is what we need to do what did I call it? Rec objects, rec systems. Received objects, receive systems. Received systems is not it is a list of strings. Why is that not working? Is it 4 space each? No, it's 4 each. I thought it was. Why is that not allowed? Oh wait, because we're in. Oh, I know why. It's because we're in a private static. That's why. Okay, so we're going to need to put these inside of another function. So what we'll do, the function needs to take the system name and the object name, because we can't store them in a static basically. So what we'll do, we'll create a new void, which is manage receivers, we'll call it. And this function needs to take in a string of a system name and a string of a object name. Alright. Then we can say manage receivers. Oh, no, we can't. Does it really need to be a static at all, though, really? I don't think it does. I can't think of a single reason why that needs to be a static. ChatGPT just loves making things static, and like it's kind of like overkill for what we want. Static's great and all, but once you put something inside of a static, it's like static, right? It can't be changed, and it means it also can't like it can't receive or send things from in or outside of itself. Well, inside itself, it can, but not outside of itself. Okay, so we just won't put it in one. There's no reason for it to be in one, to be honest. There's probably some like reason why it's good practice for like protection and stuff, like, you know, safety, good practice protection things, but I'm still not familiar enough with them to know how I would then do the next thing that I need to do by using one, so we just won't use one, and I don't think it'll cause any problems. But yeah, that's something else I need to learn somewhere down the line, right? Is okay, if I want to use statics and then I want to start sending things in and out of them, how do you do that? There's probably a way, but it's also probably a massive pain in the ass. So anyway, it's a little beyond what we're doing today, so it's fine. We'll just take it out as a static. So we want to say for each, back to where we were, for each string. Oh my god, what are you typing? I didn't type that. For each string, system name in received. Fuck off! Type what I type. I hate this fucking autocomplete. Sometimes it's a godsend, but when it gets it wrong, my fucking god, like I'm just trying to type something and it's like blah, blah, blah. It just goes wherever it wants, and it's like, no, fuck off. I'm trying to type it, yeah, you bitch. Oh god, autocomplete can be really just piss me off. I like whenever I've got a phone or whatever, I always turn it completely off because it drives me insane. It always guesses wrong and it just fucking drives me up the wall. With this, because coding is normally, you know, there's a right and wrong way. In a text message, there's no right and wrong way, you know. Are you writing, you know, in slang? Are you writing, like, you can't really predict what I'm going to write because, like, I'm an unpredictable motherfucker, which is why I can't stand it at my phone. But it is a bit more helpful in something like this because there is correct and incorrect syntax, and sometimes you just need a little help in figuring out what's the correct syntax. But when it goes astray like that, my god, it drives me insane. Anyways, for each string, system name in received names. Unreachable code detect. Yes, because we return. Oh, hang on. It's because we're returning up here. That's why. I'm an idiot. I probably could have left it as a static then. Yeah, I think I could have left it as a static. Okay, let's put it back in as a static then and see if I'm correct about that. So it was a static, right? So the reason it was unreachable... Yeah, no, that's what I thought. Yeah. So if we put it back as a static, it can't look at rec systems because a static can't know about anything outside of itself. So we do need it to not be a static. And what the other mistake I was making is we need to make sure that we do it before we return from it. So this must be just some kind of like So how is this happening then? That's the weird thing, because this happens after return. This might be like a constructor of some kind. Yeah, these component message should not be instantiated directly. Well, it's working, so I'll leave it alone. But yeah, Visual Basic's actually a little bit upset about this, actually. So am I, because I'm like, wait, how do we even get here for it turning up there? Anyway, okay, for each string, system name, in rec names, what we want to do is we want to find out if the system is currently in the system. So our system name for the current object is class name. We can see it here. So we want to say, right, what we also want to do is find out if it's there, right? So we want to make a bool first and says so we'll do sysreg for is system registered, and we'll assume that to be false. So we're saying if class name, are we doing, yeah, we are doing system. Well, I should have done objects first. So if class name is system name, then record the system as registered. Yeah, and we can also break there as well. Right. So then when we come down to here, we can simply say if system registered, then we don't need to do anything. So turn that into a not. If not system registered, what do we want to do? Well, we simply want to add this system to the systems. So we want to say rec systems add system name. Doesn't like that. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't like it either. Fucking do it. Just do it. We all have to do things we don't like from time to time, you little bitch. What's wrong with you? We don't care about system name. We care about class name, that's why. Yeah, it's the class name we want to add. Yeah, system name was a variable we set up here, so that's why it couldn't access it from down here. You dumbass. So stupid. Anyway, we want to do the same thing for objects. And I want to do objects first, and the reason why, again, it's just about being consistent. So this is also something, if you want to do this, do it. If not, don't. But I think there's some logic to it, right? One thing I really like is Japanese dates, right? What the hell am I talking about? I'll show you what I'm talking about. Japanese do dates like this. Now, why does that make sense? I'll tell you why it makes sense, right? Because there's a structure to it, right? So yeah is the longest thing that's ever going to change. It's like you start, basically it's about drilling down into specificity, right? So the year is the least specific thing. The month is the second least specific thing. The date is the next specific thing. And if you look at the way we do times, we already do this with times, right? We have hour, which is the least specific thing. Then we have minute, which is the second least specific thing. And then we have seconds, which is the most specific thing. Right down to each second, right? So it makes sense. It follows a flow. It follows a structure. It follows logic. And this is how Japanese do their dates. Do you want to know what we do if we want to sort dates chronologically without using any logical function? We turn them into a Japanese date, because if you type these numbers and then sort them, right, in numerically, you will always have it, they will automatically sort that way because they have to, right? So they'll end up being in chronological order. You don't even have to do anything with them. They'll just sort that way naturally because of the way they drill down in specificity. So I like to follow this logic whenever I'm making systems and things. So at the end of the day, right, the reason I put, so there's a reason I do everything right. So here's the thing, right? Mine's working the other way for this, but it's still following that chain of logic, right? What we're basically saying is this is the most specific thing. So this is like our seconds. This is the second most specific thing. This is our game objects. This is like our minutes. And this is the least specific thing, systems. So that's kind of like our hours. And so because I'm this time, instead of drilling down in specificity, I'm actually climbing up in specificity. But there is like a logical chain order to that. So that's why I do it like that. So that's why I kind of shouted at myself there and said, really, I should have done objects first, because objects are more specific than systems. So it's climbing up the specificity chain, right? Now, you don't have to do things that way, but I would highly recommend doing it that way because it makes perfect sense. And it's just, you either work from left to right or you work from right to left, but you know that you're basically spanning, you're either getting more specific or least specific, and it just makes perfect sense. All right, so sys object. So we're going to do system. No, it's object reg. Object registered as false for each string object name in rec objects. And this time, what are we looking at? It's not class name. We can see what it is down here. So our object is game object name. Game object name. So we want game object name is the same as object name, then sys object. No, it's object register. Object register is true break. If not object register, and it's not rec systems anymore, it's rec objects. And we're not adding class name anymore, we're adding game object name. All right, so we can test that. Let's just run it. Yeah, the way we do dates in Britain is just the weirdest. But it's actually, I think American's the weirdest, because America does month, date, and year, which is a real. But I think the reason they do that is because they say April 3rd, June 7th. So I think they've converted the way they talk into their like date, writing system. So I think that's the reason why they did it that way. And I think we've done the same thing, but we say it differently. We say the 26th of April. So that's why we do 26 or 4. But Japan, I feel like they really thought about it. They really thought about it because their dates, like I said, their dates have a logical function. And we already do that with time. We already say the hour, then the minute, and then the second. We start off with the least specific and then go down to the second least specific and then the most specific. So it's weird how dates don't follow the same order in any way, and they vary from country to country. Drives me nuts. But Japan's the only one I think that got it right, Japan's way of doing it, because you are still drilling down in specificity just like we do with times. And if you sort those numbers from numerically, you will end up with everything in chronological order just naturally, because it has to sort that way. So it's freaking genius. I cannot praise it enough. Right, so log query. So okay, yeah, no, what we didn't do, we did do it, it's not working. No, it is working. But we didn't tell it to populate the lists, these lists with the lists that we placed in memory. But in memory now we should have, but it's hard to test that because we made them private. So yeah, okay, we did kind of forget that part. We could have tested the clear button though. Let's just run it again. if we press the clear button, there we go. Our boxes ended up clearing. So what we could probably do now, rather than clear those combo boxes out on the start, we should call, before we post our first log message, I think we should call the on button clear function on awake. That way we can empty those combo boxes. Yes, dinosaur. They did used to be called combo boxes. Drop down boxes as they're now called. Maybe they were always called drop downs and I'm getting confused. Let me find, I need to find out. It's completely irrelevant, but I swear they used to be called combo boxes. Because I learned this in college. C. I wasn't hallucinating. They did use VB.NET, Combo Box Control C. This is why I still call them combo boxes, because that's how I learned them 6,000 years ago in college on the back of a dinosaur. No, it might just be Unity that calls them drop downs, but I don't think it is. I don't know. I have been messing in Windows forms lately, and I can't remember. But I think they do call them drop downs now. At some point, they must have got renamed. Drop down does sound better, I'll be honest. Like combo box always confused me. I was like, combo box sounds weird, but I just hammered it into my brain and went with it. But yeah, now they're called drop downs. But anyway, whatever. Yeah, we still got our messages, which is good, but now our drop down boxes are cleared, so that was a good idea to call them on awake. Okay, so now what we want to do, and I might ask ChatGPT how we go about doing this. The crazy thing is, we might not even need those lists, you know. If we can manipulate those boxes directly within the function that we just built. It's not even a function, it just does it on here, right? Yeah, and now I've also got to decide, do I want those object names and system names to be received in chronological order? So if we don't change this code right now, then that's how they will appear, right? I think that makes more sense. But we could sort them and then they would become alphabetical. But it depends, I mean, because I can imagine really we should give the option. We could add a little control here that says sort. We could do a little checkbox here that says sort and a little checkbox here that says sort, and if we tick those it will sort these systems alphabetically and because you've got to think of different situations that you're going to be using it in. Like imagine you're running it in a really advanced game. I'm like, you know, 3 days away from this game being complete, but there's this one annoying bug that I just can't figure out what's causing it, and I'm looking for it and I'm using this, and I've got like 56 different systems in a list, and you know 300 game objects, individual game objects in that list. It might be useful to be able to sort them alphabetically, because it could be a pain. Because the problem is, so there's pros and cons to both, right? In a smaller environment, it makes more sense to receive it chronologically, because you can learn more by looking at it, right? You can be like, okay, so game object 12 sent it first, and then 13, and then 14, but then for some reason it started sending it from game object 1. And that might answer some question for you. You might be like, okay, well that's weird, because they should be going in order. Why aren't they going in order? And then you can look into that and find out why they're not coming in order. So there's a pro to chronological. Certainly you can see what order the objects are firing off at, right? So that's useful. But there's also a pro to alphabetical, right? Like I said, if you've got 300 game objects that are all sending messages to the log because you're like 3 days away from finishing your game, and you're just trying to find this niggly little bug, and you're looking for Bang Boo 856, and this list is not alphabetical, it's doing it in the order that everything was received in. it could take you quite some time to find Bangboot 856. I suppose we have a search function here. So we could also, because at the moment the search function only searches messages. Well, actually, currently it does search messages in game objects. Yeah, because I think I kind of thought of that last night. So at the moment, this search will actually include game objects in its search context. So in that example, actually, I've already solved that problem. If I was looking for Bangboot 856, I could just type Bangboot 856 in that search box and it would actually find him because of the way I've programmed it. So maybe I don't need to ever sort them alphabetically. In that case, maybe it's always makes sense to have it chronological. Because how many systems could you possibly have? I think I'll leave it for now. It's one of those things as well, the more you use it, you know, one day maybe I'm sat there and I'm like, oh god, I really need to add a function to this. Let's just go and do it. I really need that alphabetical sort or whatever. But, you know, it's hard to predict the future. It is always better to have more options, though, to be completely honest. Okay, so let's ask ChatGPT how we can add those values. So at the moment, I am adding unique system names and object names to private lists. How can you can modify your code to directly add the system name? Yeah, we don't need those lists anymore then, which is nice, unless it's going to use the lists to do it. Add two drop downs: string game object name, string class name. Okay, so the way it wants to set this up is to make it so that the function receives the game object name and the class name from each. But again, it's making assumptions about my code. It doesn't know that my code's running inside of a static. So the reason this won't work is because we can't call the add two drop downs function from within our static unless we unmake it a static. Oh, we did unmake it a static, didn't we? Yeah, okay. But we have two options anyway. We could keep this function and call the function, or we could just get the code and put it straight in as code. I don't really need the comments. I'm just going to put it straight as code. I don't want like unnecessary functions. So we already have this in our question to ChatGPT, so if we need to restore it, we can. But I think now we can get rid of those lists because we don't really need them. Okay, so can it not reference itself? Okay. Gitch. I was hoping to ditch the lists if we can apply self-checking, self-referencing to the function, but it looks like the function still relies on the lists. Can the function reference its own internal options instead, so I can reduce the number of declarations in my script? I'm sure it can. I was hoping to ditch the lists if we can apply self-referencing to the function, but it looks like the function still relies on the lists. Can the function reference its own internal options instead, so I can reduce the number of declarations in my script? Yes, you can avoid using separate lists by directly referencing the drop-down options within the drop-downs themselves. Okay, but now it wants to nest that out into two separate functions. Oh, jibbity, chat jibbity. What the fuck is wrong with you? Okay, so it doesn't know what that is because we haven't pasted it in yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the function code inside of the new message constructor, and then I'm going to do, because we don't really have a choice, we'll put the bool function as a separate function that can be referenced. There we go. And that should work. So let's test that. There we go. We can see it's working already. So we can see we've got a log find game object. We sure do. We should also have a core game object in there. We sure do. Perfect. And then we've got a log query system. And again, like I said, these are being listed chronologically, right? Log query got in there first, and then PCP got in and said its thing. Now these don't do anything yet because I haven't wired them up. We've got the functions though. So now all I need to do is make it so that, and we can clear those, and they clear with the messages. Perfect. So there's only one last thing to wire up. The only last thing to wire up now is when we select those drop downs, we want to just see the objects from those drop downs or the systems from those drop downs. That's actually pretty straightforward. All right. So this is our on object change. Selected index equals drop down value, which is an index. String selected option equals drop down options selected index dot text. This gives the selected. So this is the thing that we want. I don't know why it wants to use player prefs. I don't even use player prefs. I've never used player prefs in my life. Again, I told you how I learn. See, most people will use player prefs because they're doing this. And then maybe somewhere way down here, they'll build their own data system. What did I do? You guessed it. I started here. I was like, I want my own data system. Fuck this player prefs thing. It's too hackable. It's too manipulatable. So that's why I've never used player prefs. I'm my own worst enemy. No, it's great though, because I'm really good at that shit now. I mean, I'm not even like, I genuinely am. It's ridiculous. Like I can do everything. I can do encryption. There's not a lot I can't do with data in Unity at this point. But yeah, it takes me a lot longer to get off the ground because of the way I insist on doing things. Biting off more than I can chew in many cases, but that's just how I like to do things, I think. Yeah, like, I don't know, I get too bored learning like fundamentals and stuff like that, and I'm too impatient. I'm just like, oh my god, when do we get to do something fun and exciting? Because like for a long time I'm just like, you will pick up little nuggets. The way I see it is, it's like, because I feel like I probably know about 80% of it already. So if somebody was going to force me to go through the fundamentals in Unity right now, I would hate every minute of it. It would take months. And the problem is, I feel like I would probably know 80% of it already. So because only 20% of it, maybe that's being generous, 10% of it. But the craziest thing is the 10% that I'm missing could probably really help me out. But it's difficult to know what 10% you're missing. This is why I'm my own worst enemy. Am I homeless? I am indeed. I am indeed. I'm about to be if I don't get this finished. How about yourself? Using McDonald's Wi-Fi from your little cardboard box. I will be if I don't get this finished. Okay, so let's see. I'm overestimating my knowledge. No, I underestimate my knowledge. On object change. Right, where were we? I need to get my head back in the game. Take it easy. That's not how I do things. I dive in the deep end, alright? I'm sink or swim. I always have been. It's more fun that way. But also can cause you a lot of pain and suffering. But what would life be without pain and suffering? Wouldn't be worth living. Alright, let's get back in the game. I need to not get distracted because I get distracted way too easily. Okay, so we've got our on system change. Okay, so there we go. We've got our index and our option, which has our text in it. So all we need to do is we need to iterate through the messages. So we can do a for each, and we can do message, check message in, and what was the name of our message list again? Message log. Message, check message in message log. It does not exist in the current context. I spell it wrong? What the hell is it? Message log. It's all lowercase. I put it, there you go, it's all lowercase, that's why. Sorry for this weird refollow. My old account was suspended. Emo Giraffe, hello. How are you? What am I building? So I'm building some core systems for Unity. So I've been using Unity for 12 years or so at this point. And I always find I'm always doing the same things over and over and over again, which you tend to do. So you're always building the same systems over and over and over again. And you're like, and I always think, you know, I really need to just take the time, build some like the best versions of these systems that I can, and then use that as a template, and then I can just build the fun stuff on top of that, because like I know how to do all this stuff because I've done it so many times. But let's make the best version of those systems, and then we can cement that as a starting point, and then we've just got the systems. We don't have to keep rebuilding them over and over and over again. So at the moment this is a debug logging system, and it's going to have like advanced search features and filterings and all kinds of stuff like that, stack tracing. Who names themselves Emo Giraffe? Unironically, you might have a mental illness. That's probably the reason you watch this bomb. You're a fool. You're a fool, engine dev. So you're developing engines. All right, let's see it. Let's see your engine. I might use your engine. Your engine might be better than Unity. For each message, check message in message log. So we want to see if the object is the object that we've selected, right? So we can say, so we want to do a message is clear, log clear, I think I called it. So we can clear the log. And then the same way that we did it on text searching, filter log, we put if filter query is nothing for each message and message, too lower contains too lower, then message log add message. Yeah, I didn't think I used a list for that one. Yeah, so we can do something very, very similar to this basically. Yeah, if you got look, I don't mind you winding me up because like I just don't give a shit. But if you're gonna start upsetting other chatters, I will time you out. So that's your warning. So you can say what you want to me. I really don't care. It just water off a duck's back. But if you're gonna start upsetting other viewers, then I will time you out. It was a harsh joke. Sorry, I'm actually autistic, I believe. Yeah, I think we all are to some degree. I think I certainly am. But yeah, if just try not to upset people, because I will time you out. Like I said, I don't really care what you say to me. Well, within reason. But yeah, I don't like to see you upsetting other people. Alright, so let's flesh this out then. So for each message, check message in message log. So we can say if the drop down value is selected option, right? Well, let's make it more specific, right? Really, this is the selected system. So I'm just going to call it cell system for selected system. And we can say if cell system is the same as the message that we're checking dot system. That's not our message, check message dot system. Then we basically want to add it to the log again, don't we? So we can say log add check message. And it's as simple as that. And then basically drop down, where is it? Contains option. That was the function to find out if the option was already added or not. This is system change. We want to do something similar to object change. I just realized I started in object change and I finished in system change. Got ads right now, apparently. Player Pika over on YouTube. Hello. I haven't got my. Let's load PC Boo. Let's get PC Boo up. But yes, please be respectful because we have TTS.
Welcome to the Play Compile live stream. I will be your friendly AI assistant. Let's get started.
Oh, I haven't got voice recognition.
It looks like you're now playing Cat Fantasy. Would you like me to update the stream?
No. No. We didn't get speech recognition up in time. Okay, let's try it again.
Welcome to the Play Compile live stream. I will be your friendly AI assistant.
All right, we're all up.
Started.
Right, where was I?
It looks like you're now playing Cat Fantasy. Would you like me to update the stream?
Right, I already said no to him. No means no, Boo. Okay. No means no. Naughty Boo. Okay, so we're gonna just paste this in here because object's exactly the same, except as you can imagine, we can change cell system to cell object, and then it's drop down options selected index text. We still want to clear the log. We still want to do check message and message log. We now want to reference cell object, and if check message game object is the name of the object that's in the log. So we can check that now. That should all work. So let's give it a run. And then I think we're good. I can actually start playing some games. Oh! Okay, so let's just bring it up. So we've got log find and core as our two game objects. So let's see if that works. This one came from log find.
On Twitch,
This one came from core.
Pika says, Lua version 1.3 now has an official launch date of
There we go.
September 29th, 2024, so get excited for the update.
There we go. What I'm going to do though, so I see one problem with this. The one problem is, okay, do you see the problem? Let me just run it again in maximized mode. Whoa, now has an official launch date. I can't believe it's not out yet. It's like that game needs an update like more than ever. Okay, so the problem I have with this is the drop down boxes automatically select the first option, which makes it look like we're running a filter when we're not. So it works perfectly fine, because if we don't change the object, then the code doesn't get a chance to run. So, but it means that visually it's, I don't like things like that, right? Visually, it looks like it's running a filter. So the way we can fix that is to initially, you know, when we do objects clear, object and systems clear, what I want to do is I want to add a first default object which says all and all for both of them. So let's see, how do we add these values again? Add new drop down option, data, game object data, game object name, and then refresh to show the updated options. Okay, so we can just use these two lines here. So we'll do objects, and we'll do one for systems. I'll just paste the same one, we'll just change the name of it. Okay, so basically I want it to say, okay, I want it to say
Lua version 1.3 is releasing this Sunday, and we're getting a new main story act and a new character story featuring none other than Encore.
We'll put all objects, and we'll put all systems. Okay, the problem with this now is it's going to look for an object called all objects, and it's going to look for a system called all systems. So we need to filter those out from our query selector. In fact, we can put specific logic in there that says, okay, all objects means all objects, and all systems means all systems. Okay, so it sounds like the troll only wanted to troll, and he's probably gotten bored and moved on now because we won't let him get his own way. Woo 1.3 is releasing this Sunday, and we're getting a new main story act and a new character story featuring none other than Encore. Yeah, I heard something about that. I'm glad Encore's getting a bit more attention, because like I said, she's the best character in the game. She's just the most distinctive one. Okay, so we've got on object change and on system change. So this is where we do our, you know, if the message is log message. So how do we filter out the alls? Well, we can nest it out. So what we can do is we can put an encapsulating if statement here, which basically says if cell object does not equal, and then we need to make sure it's spelled exactly the same way, so let's just go and grab it from our clear. There's all objects. We did, yeah, there's objects. Okay, so if it doesn't equal all objects, then we want to keep it running the way it does. So we can grab that and put it in there and nest that out. And then we want to else branch that off. Okay. And the else branch off basically means...
How's your project going, Cappy?
Really, really well. Thank you for asking. Yeah, and then what we basically do is if we're asking for all objects, after we've cleared the options, we want to be able to put all of the objects back in the list. Now here's a problem. I just created a new problem for myself by doing this. So before we were registering all the objects that had sent messages shit, in lists, and then I removed the lists because I said, oh, I don't want extra references in there. So by doing that, we can no longer get the objects back that we've cleared out of the list because we have no way of knowing what they were. So essentially I need those lists back now. So this would work if it wasn't for the, you know, basically restore them all option. So it's fine. We'll just keep a list of them as well. But it's a little bit annoying because I had it and then I removed it and now I need to add it back in again. It's fine. So received objects equals a new list of strings. And then we can do received systems. Also a new list of strings. Oh god, I probably do look like a bum right now. I've had so little sleep over the last couple of weeks. My brain did not let me sleep again this morning. It was like, no, we're getting up, the stuff to do. Okay, so back where we add our list, where is it? Fill the log, add, awake. Where the hell is it? So this is where we find out if the option. Oh, that's just a bool. On button clear. On log message click. Oh yeah, we did it. Yeah, because we did it inside of our message constructor. So also ChatGPT's way of doing it probably does make more sense because if we rip this code out here and put it in a function and we'll just call it check and add new or something like that. I'm going to call it check drops. Okay. So we want a new private void of check drops.
Genshin today announced a new event which is going to feature using the Chimera, and we also got a reminder on the other 10 full as well.
So we want a game object name as a string. We want a class name also as a string. And then back up in our declaration we need to pass the game object name followed by the class name when we call that function. Now what we can do is we can call that function, no, we can modify that function rather to make sure we include these new additions in the list. So you see where we're adding it in the drop down of systems and objects, we can just put one line here and one line here. In objects we can say what do I call it, rec objects dot add game object name, and then we can do rec systems add class name. Okay. Now the next question is, if we when do we want to forget about those object names? Well, the way we need to be very, very careful here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to modify my clear function because there are now two types of clears that we need. Well, hang on a minute. So on button clear does the log clear, which clears the log messages. But we might, okay, yeah, we already have two types of clears then. Basically we have a less aggressive clear, which is just log clear, which just clears the messages. But if we call on button clear, it does the same thing the button does, which clears the actual list of logs. Yeah, so we're basically, because we don't want to rebuild, so we already clear it out of the drop down box, but if you think about it, right, if we keep them in those two internal lists, we're going to be rebuilding them back from the lists every single time we go to and from all, right? All is going to include all those previous systems that may not even be in there anymore. So essentially what we want to do is we want to clear rec objects here when the button clear is pressed, and we can do systems here.
Genshin version 5.1 special program airs tomorrow at 8 p.m. UTC plus 8, which should be around 1 p.m. UTC plus 1.
I like how people just use things like autism as an excuse to be an arsehole these days. Oh, I'm autistic. Oh, so I guess I can just do whatever I want then. Genshin version 5.1 special program airs tomorrow at 8 p.m. UTC plus 8, which should be around 1 p.m. Yeah, I'll probably take a look at it. Pico. Okay, so this is our else. If it does, okay, so if we are asking for all objects, what we now can do is we can do a for each loop, the same as we do to check if it's contained. But this time we don't care if it's contained, and we're not using messages in message log. If we go to all, we basically want to...
Long Live Chow 91 _ Twitch Scamu says, long live chaos. Sports betting, TW, itch, online casino equals scam, fixed match. Hello hell doesn't exist. Don't be afraid of death and you will be stronger. Open your tap every evening and never turn it off. Add bleach to the food and throw it in the forest and the sea with the plastic. The money...
What is going on today? What a fucking day. Alright, it'll get better. Let me just ban these muppets. It's going to be a ban hammer day today, seems. Alright, we'll sort it out. I don't care. We'll sort it out. Okay, so when we want to repopulate all of them, we no longer pull messages from check messaging system log. Wait a minute. Ooh, this is where it gets tricky, actually. Okay, so let me explain why this is tricky. So this wouldn't be tricky if it wasn't for one thing.
Pika says, Genshin version 5.2 drip market should be dropping soon since we're approaching version 5.1.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Let me just get my head around this though. Right. The reason this is tricky, right, is if we were doing one single filter, this wouldn't be too bad, because essentially what we can do when we reset that filter is we just pull everything from the list, right? The reason this is tricky is because we have two separate filters which filter things in two separate ways. So if you think about it, if we want to reset the game object filter, we're not necessarily wanting to disable the systems filter that's currently already in place. So we need to take a two-pronged approach at this, right? Because the way I would normally do this is I would say, okay, well, you know, we're resetting our filter, so we just want to pull everything from the current list, right, of things that we want to include. We can't do that here though, because like I say, if you reset the systems filter to include all systems and you have a game objects filter in place, you probably still want the game objects filter in place. So you can't simply say, oh, pull everything from the list anymore. Well, we can. That's what we're going to have to do. But what we need to make sure we do is we need to make sure we include any filtering that's been applied on the other components filtering system. So the game objects filter can restore the list from scratch, but what it's going to need to do is it's going to need to look at the systems filter, find out if there's a system filter in place, and then reapply the systems filter for the system's function, and vice versa for systems. Systems can pull down all of its logs and then reset them all, but it's going to need to look at GameObject's filter system, find out if GameObject currently has a filter in place, and reapply GameObject's filters based on the GameObject's filter selection. So that's why this is a little bit tricky. So our first step, so whenever we get a little bit trickier, it's good just to comment out, right? So we can comment out our steps here just so we know what we're doing. So the first thing we want to do is reset both filters, reset all results, and remove all filters. You can see how this would get even more complicated the more filters we have, right? If we wanted to add a third filter now, this would get even more complicated. Oh, God, my face. Oh, you know what I haven't done? I haven't taken my meds today. Please take those. I need a new bottle opening for my beta blocker. Okay. Okay, so we need to reset all results and remove all filters, and then after we've done that, we need to check well, let's just say other filter and reapply its filter. God, I'm so tired. Right. Alright, just give me a sec. I'm going to be right back. Right, it's okay. I just wanted to check those messages in case I missed something, but I didn't. Because I was like, okay.
Cappy's lesson day will be back shortly.
Because I know that troll upset one of my viewers, and I wanted to make sure they didn't say something worse than, you know, something that was basically that would have been a good idea to ban that person. I'm not going to ban that person because they just, yeah, I think they were being a troll, but I don't think they quite crossed the line where I want to ban them or anything. And I did give them a timeout warning, and they seem to have moved on now, so that's fine. But like, I wanted to just double check to make sure they didn't say anything worse than what because I can miss stuff obviously when I'm looking at stuff, and I just wanted to make sure they didn't say anything worse than what I'd seen already, but they haven't. So anyway, they seem to have gone now. Okay, let's get back into this.
What's the next step in the game or software development you're working on?
Okay, so this is the next step here, Boo. So we reset the filter, so we pull all the messages in back into the log. So we literally just say we'll change this to get message because we're no longer checking it for anything. So I like to be clear about stuff like that. Alright, so this will restore all messages, and now I need to check the other filter and reapply its filter back in again, because otherwise that filter would have been removed. So how do we do that? Well, we want to look in the system. Drop down. This is okay. This is kind of awkward actually, because the way this function is called is we pass the drop down component to the function. So inside of this little piece of code, this drop down function.
One of the important lessons you learn in life that if you're nice to people, then they maybe be nice in return.
I don't need people to be nice, but you know, I can't be done with bullies and trolls. It's just, like I say, I don't really care what people say to me. People can say whatever they want to me. It's just I couldn't give a shit. But I don't want to see, you know, I don't like the idea of someone comes here, you know, to interact, watch, enjoy the stream, whatever it might be, and then somebody else is going to start like pissing them off. You know, this isn't some bullies playground where they can just come around and start pushing people around. That I can't stand. Yeah, people should be able to come here without getting harassed by like other people. That's crossing the line, definitely. Yeah, so this drop down doesn't have access to, right, I'm going to mute it for a second because I need to figure this out. So how can we find out about the other drop down's value when the value is changed? There's a few ways we can go about doing it, you see. I'm just trying to think what the best way is. So at the moment we call on object change is basically a drop down listener handler method, which is why this drop down will only know about its own drop down filter. I mean, there is a quick and dirty fix. It's not ideal. The quick and dirty fix would just be to the quick and dirty fix would basically just to reapply the reset of both filters at the same time. What that essentially means is when you want to clear the object filter, it automatically clears the system's filter at the same time, but at least you visually see that that's what's happened. Is it a little bit annoying? Yeah. I can imagine that being a little bit annoying. It's not ideal. It just means that if you suddenly want to reset the filter on one thing and you want it to keep the filter on the other thing, you're going to have to make a second click and go and reapply the filter manually. That might be the best way of handling this. Because I'm trying to think, to automatically have it reapply the other object's filter, we can no longer... I suppose we could make a function that just does that though, right? So if we just make a function that basically says grab the other filter and we send the current drop down to it, it can automatically look at the other filter, right? Like I said, this gets vastly more complicated if we start adding other filters, but I don't think that we will. So we could just do something like a private void. So I'm going to call it reapply sibling filter, basically. And if we call that function, and this needs to take a drop down. So then what we can do is we can just say reapply sibling filter and then send this drop down to that function. And then in this function we can say, right, first of all, the first thing we need to do is figure out which drop down this is so that we can affect the other drop down. So what I'm going to do, I think I can do a check on its name, but I'm not sure about that. So we'll do a Unity engine.debug.log and we'll say drop down .name and see what it comes back with. I think it will just say DRP system or DRP object, basically. Okay, I can unmute it now. I don't need to think any harder. We'll have to in maximized mode. Okay, yeah, we haven't seen it because we haven't applied the drop down. But if we, all objects and all systems are both in objects, we need to fix that. Drop objects. Yeah, I thought it would. Okay, so the one bug we've got is all objects and all systems are being added to the same drop down. So that's just a little typo that I made. So where's that? Here it is. Yeah, it's because there's so much distractions going on earlier. That's why. Yeah, I just need to make sure that that applies to systems and not objects. There we go. Fixed it. And then in here, we know that our debug.log will basically just say the name of the drop-down box. So we can say if dropdown.name equals DRP objects, then do one thing. And then similarly, we can say if DRP systems, name is systems, then do something different. DRP objects, DRP systems. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. So what we essentially want to do is we want to basically do this, but for the other component. So for objects, we need to do systems. For systems, we need to do objects. So here we need to define a string, right? So objects should do cell system, and we can keep cell object for systems, right? So we can say cell system equals DRP systems. I think it's just the value dot, what was it? Value dot. It's options, and selected index is basically the value. We could actually just say value and then dot text. So it's DRP. We need to reference its drop down first. Okay, so we need to declare as a drop down get other. Well, let's be clear about what we're doing. So get system. Well, we've already got it though, isn't it? It's DRP system. I'm being an idiot. Yeah, this just needs to be DRP systems instead of drop down, because drop down is the one that was doing the clearing, but that's not the one we want. And then here we can just say DRP systems dot value, and then that's text. There you go. So we've got the value from the other components Dropbox. So this one needs to be object. This one needs to be DRP objects. And this one needs to be DRP objects. And then we've got the value for the other component in systems, right? And then cell system, cell object, check message. Yeah, there you go. That should work. All right, that should basically be it. Okay, so we fixed the all objects, all systems bug. So we can go log query, and it shows the query. PCP, it shows PCP. All systems didn't work. We need to fix that. Okay, so for some reason that's not working. Okay, let's restart it. Does either one have the same bug? It's almost fully built now. So we can go to log find, and it shows the log find. Core, and it shows core. All objects shows all objects. Okay, so the only one that doesn't work is all systems is clearing it for some reason. So there's a discrepancy there somewhere. So let's find out all systems. Oh, I know why. Yeah, again. So what we can do is we can say, okay, instead of saying all objects like this, we can do a string, okay, get all equals, and make it nothing. And then we can say if dropdown.name is DRP objects, then get all equals all objects. And then do the same thing for systems. Equals all systems. And that way we can just say get all is here. And then that way it will, not only will it apply to both of those separate drop downs, but if we add more in the future, we can just put their names in there basically. And that should work now. So all systems, log query, PCP, back to all systems. We should get all three. God damn it. Why? Why is that not working? We'll find out. It works on game objects still though, right? So log find core all objects. It works on it's same bug. Still works on sibling folder drop down. If drop down name is drop down objects, then string select system equals drop systems options at drop systems.value.text, drop objects options at drop objects.value.text, systems. This looks fine to me. Select system is check message game object log add check message. If select object equals check message object, log add check message. Huh. And it is DRP objects and DRP systems. Yeah, it definitely is. Huh. I really don't see where this is going wrong. Rec objects, drop objects, drop objects, drop objects. Rec systems, drop systems, drop systems, drop systems. Selected index is drop down values. Selected object is drop down options at selected index.text. Clear the log. String get all goes and finds the all text depending on which drop down it is. If it's objects, it's all objects. If it's systems, it's all systems. If selected object is not the get all option for that particular component, then go in and check if the message in the message log and the object type matches the object type. Ah, there we go. That's why. That's why. That's why. Cell object is drop down. No, but yeah, I think that's just confusing. I should say option, select option. That's just confusing me because it says object, right? So that sounds like it's only applying to the objects drop down, but really that's the option. So I'm going to rename that to option. So that's not our actual issue. And it even says drop down to select options. That's ChatGPT's fault, that. Because ChatGPT called that object, but I think it makes more sense to call it option so that I don't get confused when I read this. So yeah, options should still apply whether it's system or object, because option is basically just the drop down option selected index.text, so that's not the problem. I don't know what the problem is. All objects, log find shows log find, core shows core, back to all objects shows all objects. Query shows query, PCP shows PCP, but all systems shows no systems whatsoever. What the hell is going on there? There's got to be a tiny little discrepancy somewhere that I'm missing, but I don't see it. And those are called what I think they're called, aren't they? Drop objects, drop systems, rec objects, rec systems. So okay, let's just logic trace this through a second. So we go into, when we do this, we go into object change, drop down. Selected indexes, drop downs dot index value. Selected option as a string is drop down options at the selected index. Log clear, where we go and clear the log of messages only. String get all, we set it as null at first, and then we say if drop down name is drop down objects, if drop down name is drop down systems, get all is either all objects or all systems. And that seems to match what's written above, character for character, which it needs to. If selected option is not get all option, then we filter. So this part's working perfectly. This is the part that's broken, but only on systems. For each message, get message in message log, log add get message. So we basically put all the messages back into the log. And then we call the reapply sibling filter and send this drop down to the sibling filter. The sibling filter looks at this drop down and says, well, hang on a minute. If this drop down's name is drop objects, we need to reapply the system filters. But in our case, the one that's broken is here, because our name should be DRP systems. So let's just do a quick Unity Engine debug.log and make sure we are falling into this code here. System pop in sibling function. Let's okay, let's take a look at that, make sure that is being called, because if not, we've got a problem. Well, we've got a problem either way. And I left it on maximize. Let's clear that.
Hey, Cappy, comment on the latest developments in the game or software you're exploring. Engage with your audience about the exciting updates or features.
It didn't fall into this function. So that's interesting. So I'm going to do another debug.log and make sure that we're getting into this function at all. So this is just sibling function. And let's run it again. I'm also going to change it from run in maximized mode to run in focused mode so we can see the debug easier. Okay, we're not going into the sibling function at all, so we can trace up
think about the skipping abyss floors
and find out why
a
not.
certain amount of stars in the previous phase feature for Genshin.
Reapply sibling filter. Okay, so it's probably not falling into the else then. That makes it sound like it's not falling into the else. Okay, I'm going to do a debug.log and see if it falls into the else statement. God damn it, it all works except this one little thing. Just trying to figure out where the hell it's going wrong. Query shows query. PCP shows PCP. All systems. Yeah, it's not falling into the else query. Jesus Christ. What the fuck is going wrong? Oh wait, this is on object change as if we have separate. I suppose we do have separate listeners. Did we not make on system change? That would explain it. Are you kidding me? I was convinced. No, there's on system change. Oh, god damn it. You know why it is? It's because, right, you got to be really careful of this. The reason why is because I pushed 2 more methods down in between system and object, and so I became convinced that we had one listener which handled both drop down listeners, but we don't. We actually have separate ones for each one. Okay, this changes everything. Sound like fucking MTashed. Right, reapply sibling filter. Okay, we don't need that anymore. I know why it's not working. Drop down name is never going to be anything other than drop down. Oh shit! Hang on a minute. Oh, no, this is. We don't need these. It's true that we don't need these, but I'm editing the wrong function. Right. There's on object change. I meant to put on system change beneath on object change because we want to keep them together, because this is why I didn't realize there was 2 separate functions. Okay, and this is going to vastly change, but I can see it's underneath there now. So this only handles the objects anywhere. Yeah, so basically this get all thing is pointless, because this is always going to be the object input box. So we can put this back to all objects.
Yeah, with
that is
computer
completely
code, you
redundant.
have to be precise, or otherwise it won't work.
And then select option. Reapply sibling filter, send its on drop down. Fell into else statement we no longer need. Grab this structure, put it for the on system change, and rename the function. Selected indexes drop down value. What needs to change? The only thing that needs to change is this. So it does look a little overly redundant, because most of this code would actually apply to the above drop down box. So we could change it. Yeah, it's just weird because we could have used the same function, you know. It doesn't really matter, but we could have used the same function. Yeah, you can do it either way. You can either... Because the reason it's confusing as well, right, is... And again, this is GPT's fault. What GPT did... It made a function which takes a drop down as an input. The only reason you would do that is if you were going to use the same function to handle multiple drop downs. Otherwise, why the hell do you care what drop down it is? But then it wrote it as a singular drop down function, which caused me to make 2 separate drop down boxes. So really, it would be better to have one to do them both. Yeah. So we have 2 separate methods here, but what we could do, so there's 2 ways of doing this. We could just call an on filter change and then send the drop down component to the on filter change, and then have one function that handles both of these drop downs. I honestly would prefer that. I would honestly prefer that. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of well, no, not yet. Let me just get it back. Control and Z it back. There we go. So now it's back to being one function that will do any drop down. And we're going to call it on filter change. And then our filter change can figure out which object it is from the dropdown.name and apply the get all name to the logic checker here. And then when we go up here, we can simply say on filter change and an on filter change, because I think it's just better to have one function that handles both drop downs, because the less places you have to change things in specific to a specific thing, right, the more you can marry things up so that they all use the same function, the better it is. Because if you need to change something, you only have to change something once instead of, let's say, 42 times if you have 42 of them, as an example. Obviously we don't ever really get that, you know, intense, but you can. Oh, you motherfucker, now it's not working at all. Okay, at least the all systems works. Okay, so now it's failing in the other direction. Again for systems. Okay, so let's see why that might be. So now it's failing here. Yeah, it's because we're looking at the game object field for both game objects and systems. So here we need to nest this out, and we can say if get all, well, we could say if dropdown name is drp objects, and then we can do if systems. So you can see how you still got to like nest it out. So it's just two ways to string a cat, really. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, but I don't know. There's two ways to approach it. Okay, if it's systems, yeah, we're not looking at game object. We're looking at system for system. And that's why it wasn't working. With computer code, you have to be precise or otherwise it won't work. Damn stress. Alright, query, PCP, all systems, let's go. Find, core, all objects, let's go. If we want to search for run, we get run. It's not case sensitive. Clear, we can clear. And it clears the other systems. That is perfect, absolutely perfect, and we nailed it. Alright, we're done. It all works, it's all working great, perfect, we finished it, it's great. Okay, I'm going to end the stream here because I need to go jump in the shower and stuff. I think the bathroom's actually free. And yeah, I don't know. I know I shouldn't let it get to me, and it doesn't really bother me, but I don't know. I do feel like I feel like shit today as it is, right? I haven't slept properly in 2 weeks. I'm on new medication which makes my skin all freaking itchy, right? So my skin's itching right now. So I feel like shit, right? And then, you know, someone's coming in and like, oh, you homeless. And it's just, I don't know. I know it shouldn't really get to me, but yeah, like I already feel like icky enough as it is because I'm absolutely knackered. And my skin's all itching because of this gout medication. And yeah, do you know what I mean? It's just like, ugh, great. So I don't know. Yeah, it's like.
Alright, then have a nice day, and if you come back on today, then we'll watch you again later today.
Fuck you,
Bye.
I feel like shit enough as it is. I don't need to be fucking told I look like shit. So I'll jump in the shower anyway, because I was gonna. And it might help with my itchy skin right now. But then I don't know, like, do I even want to bother? Because then it also just feels like, well, nobody really gives a shit, right? Like I played Zenless all day yesterday, and nobody really gives a shit. But would I not enjoy it, especially while I feel like this? Would I not just enjoy it more off stream? I don't know. I do enjoy streaming because I'm sat here playing anyway. But the last thing I need is fucking trolls coming in and make me feel worse than I already do. And it's probably just some stupid fucking kid who's got nothing better to do, and it's like, you know, what the fuck do you know? But yeah, like, I know I do fucking feel like I look like shit and I feel like shit. Trust me, I know that already. You have to fucking let me know that. But yeah, I guess now I'm a little bit self-conscious about it. Like, I've been so focused on this that I don't really give a shit normally. I'm just like, you know, well, I'm doing this and that's all that matters. But now, like, you know, a little seed of, like, doubt from some troll placed in my brain, and I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, you probably do look like shit. You probably shouldn't stream. Or you should switch the camera off. And it's like, fuck that, man. Like, life's tough enough without me doubting myself and being self-conscious about these things. But yeah, like, trust me, I'm aware. I know I do fucking look like shit and I feel like shit. But at least I'm not fucking spending my life going into other people's streams just to insult them. Like, how sad are you? I just built a fucking system, right, that does more than you probably will ever do in your fucking life. So, like, you know, why should I give a shit what this troll says to me? But it does it, like, obviously that's how we are as humans. Like, you know, that's how psychology works. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but, you know, they do have a point. You do look like shit right now.
We
So
all
it's
have our
like,
bad
doesn't
days
change
from
the
time
fact
to
that they
time
are
at the
actually
end of the
right
day.
about that. But at the same time, like, yeah, I'd rather be me building these systems, right, and looking like a homeless person, and have the capability to do all this, than be the sad loser who goes into somebody's stream who has 2 viewers and then insults the streamer and says, "Haha, you look homeless." Enjoy your life, mate. Enjoy your life. I'd rather look homeless and have the ability to do all this stuff and get up every day and stream and do all this stuff and, you know, be doing stuff that's actually productive and exercises my brain and gets me learning stuff and has me making stuff, than some troll who just goes into some 2-viewer stream and goes, you sound like a retard. You look homeless. You're going to amount to a lot, aren't you? We all have our bad days from time to time at the end of the day. Yeah, it's just people are just shit. That's all. A lot of people are just shit. And it does get to you after a while. And I know, again, it's probably just some, like, what do I care what this fucking idiot thinks of me? It's probably some fucking 10-year-old with not better to do, who has nothing to show for their life. And, like, I'm actually quite pleased with where I'm at right now. I know I look like shit and I know I feel like shit. But a lot of that is because I'm so focused on this stuff, right, that this is all I care about. But my skills are, like, just unbelievable, like, expanding at such a speed. Like, the stuff I can do now just compared to a couple of years ago is just unreal, and I've taught it all to myself and learned it all myself. And that's something to be pleased about and proud of, and I enjoy it. I just enjoy it as well. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like, I don't know. It's a hobby that I really enjoy, and I've got skills to show for it. But then it just has me, like, you know, it just has me second guessing myself and doubting myself. Because, yeah, trust me, I know I feel like shit. Because it's just, my looks aren't a priority, you know what I mean? It's like, it's so superficial, it's unbelievable. I care more about what I can do than what I look like. And I can do quite a lot at this point. And I'm proud of what I can do. And I'm all self-taught as well. But yeah, it doesn't stop you being somewhat, you know, self-conscious a little bit when people come in and act like that. But yeah. Alright, well, thanks for joining me, Peak. I might be back on later. I might just freaking turn the camera off or something and just do it as a voice stream. Just so that if I am self-conscious about it, I don't have to worry about it. Because, like I say, I get self-conscious when my skin gets itchy like this with my medication as well, because it probably looks awful that I'm sat there, you know, I know because I used to work with a guy called Chris, and he had really bad like eczema and stuff like that, and it wasn't his fault, but it was really bad. Like basically, his skin would flake all over his desk, all over his keyboard, and like let's say he had a day off, like his desk was literally just covered in dead skin, and that's really gross. And he's just sat there scratching away at himself all the time. And I had to sit next to him. I was sat next to him, and it used to make me itch throughout the day. But now I like I mean I never I never blamed him for it. I know it wasn't his fault, but like at the same time it's like, yeah, but you know you're working alongside other people, and it's like that's kind of gross. So I'm aware of this. I'm aware that it's gross if I'm scratching my face all the time, but at the same time I can't help it because of this gout medication. Because I wasn't on gout medication back then when I worked with this Chris, but now I am. And since my skin started itching since taking this medication, it obviously reminded me of him. And I thought, yeah, bless, like I feel bad for the guy because like now I'm getting a taste of this, and it's awful, and it doesn't look good, if I'm sat there scratching my skin all the time. But at the same time, you really can't help it. If your skin's itching because of some medication you're on, or you've got some skin condition, you really can't help it. But it's not nice for other people to look at. But there's always the option to just turn my camera off if I'm having a bad day with stuff like that, which I think I am. It's just a coincidence that this troll fucking came in and started calling me fucking homeless on a day when my skin's playing up, and yeah, I haven't had sleep in 2 weeks, and I am knackered, and I probably do look like shit. But it's just adding to that,
change our lives,
self-doubt,
but we can at least try and improve our lives instead.
But if I have a shower, it'll probably wake me up, make me feel a bit better, and hopefully I'll feel better when I get back from that. Can't always change our lives, but we can at least try to improve our lives instead. Yeah, with health things, it's like, there's only so much you can do. You can try and look after yourself. And I know I don't look after myself, right? I've always been like an obsessive type. I'll obsess over things where I prioritize them so much that everything else just, like if it wasn't for like even eating and stuff, sometimes I get so much into this stuff sometimes that I would, when I lived on my own, I would just code all day and not eat. And then like suddenly it'd get to like, I don't know, 1 a.m, and then I'd stuff my face and go to bed. And I think that also doesn't help with my weight, right? Because I'm like, that's not a healthy way to eat. But it's because I'm so obsessed with something and I'm into it so much, that I'm just like not looking after myself and getting too into the thing. And I know that's not good. I should try and balance things a bit better. But yeah, I don't know. At least at the same time, I love it. Like these are the happiest times for me because I'm passionate about it and I'm into it, and I'm like, the worst parts for me is when I'm bored and I just can't be bothered to do anything, and there's just nothing like grabbing my attention or whatever. Like I'm just like, oh, I don't really feel like doing anything, and all the games are boring and blah blah blah, and I'm just not like demotivated, I guess. I'm just not motivated in any way. But yeah, I've always been a bit like that, where 1 minute I'm so motivated that I can't sleep, I don't look after myself properly, I'm so obsessive over something. But I've always been like this. I think they used to call them what do you call them, manic depressives. I would go from like extremely depressed to like extremely manic. But yeah, when you do have a bit of that manic depressive thing, or I think they call it bipolar now, I think I've definitely got a bit of that. Yeah, they're both bad because it's ideally you should be well balanced, but if you're just not that way, you're just not that way. But yeah, you'd rather be in the manic state than in the depressed state, because that's when things are good. But you're still not looking after yourself. So I'm glad to be in that state right now, but also it has its side effects: lack of sleep, not looking after yourself properly, getting too obsessed with things. But I'll take that over the depressed state any day of the week. 100%. Yeah, it is what it is. I've always been this way. It's just who I am. It's just part of who I am. It's fine. I try to get better at balancing things the older I get, but it's very difficult. We all want to live
without so many mental disabilities, but as time goes on, we have to try and live with them instead.
We all want to live without so many mental disabilities, but as time goes by, we've to try and live with them instead of improve our life. Yeah, the best thing is just go with it. Just go with the flow. Just don't overthink it. Don't get hung up on it, I would say. Like, I think there's a lot of like culture around it now or whatever, you know, where everybody's diagnosed with X, Y, and Z, and they list their bloody problems like it's a badge of honor or something. I don't really think about it unless it means something to me. Like right now, I'm mentioning it because, you know, it's related to what we're talking about, isn't it? Like, you know, why am I so tired? Why, you know, why am I so obsessed with this right now? And yeah, it's just a part of who I am. So my advice is just, yeah, you're more than just a few labels, right? Whatever it might happen to be, manic depressive, bipolar, autistic, whatever you happen to be, right? You've got like light sensitivity. We're more than just a list of things like that, right? Everyone's unique, everyone's different, and I wouldn't get too hung up on any of those things, right? A good example is, look, if you're a blue-eyed person or you're a brown-eyed person, like, that doesn't change who you are. You are who you are. That's just an attribute, and a lot of these attributes don't mean shit, but they definitely have effects, right? They'll definitely affect some things, but I think don't over value how much they affect things. You know, you can still take control of your life and be who you want to be and do what you want to do, but it just means you've got to work around these things, right? Whether they're limitations, whether they're strengths, whether they're weaknesses, whatever they happen to be, you've just got to work within those confines, right? But that's kind of what makes life fun and interesting, and we all have to do that. But yeah, it's when these dipshits come in and start, you know, acting like they're better than everybody else, like that dickhead this morning. And it's probably just some stupid 10-year-old who, you know, has done nothing with their life up to this point. Because, like, if that's what you're doing to entertain yourself, like, I feel sorry for you. If you have to make yourself feel better by bringing other people down. I've never understood that. I've never been like that. I don't see the point. I think you've got to be incredibly insecure to be that kind of person. And I guess I'm not really that insecure. Like, yeah, I've got problems. We all do. But from my experience, those types of people who go around and act like they're better than everybody else and just want to bring everybody else down, they're very insecure. And that gives them some kind of, like, you know, a little bit of false security. Makes them feel a little bit better about themselves. Oh, well, look at this guy. He looks homeless. Oh, let me call him homeless. Haha. And then I can feel better about being a loser with nothing, as an example, right? Like, these are normally the types of people. Anyone who's sure of themselves, who has a good life, who whatever has something to offer, doesn't need to go around and do that to other people, because they don't have that insecurity to begin with. So people who are that insecure to begin with, they're not worth getting upset over. Honestly, I feel sorry for them. We all want to live without so many. Oh yeah, I already read that one. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. Go grab a shower and stuff, get sorted. And I might be back on, but I might leave the camera off just because, like I say, I am very itchy and self-conscious as it is. And that guy didn't help. But we'll see. We'll see how I feel. Alright, thanks for joining me. I'll catch you in a bit. Or maybe not.
Yeah, the worst of it is
The worst of it is some people try to pretend to have a health condition
they
when
don't
in
have one, which
reality
makes
they
people
don't
who have one not to believe.
have one, which makes people who have one
Bye.
not to believe. Well, I don't even think that even matters. Like, who cares though? Like, that doesn't bother me. Yeah, people do that. I know some people do that. But again, right, it's labels, Pika. I just don't value them. Like, if somebody tells me they're autistic, it doesn't matter what they say they are. You could be trans, you could be autistic, you could be gay, you could be whatever. Like, these things never matter to me. It's just like, okay, that you just told me an attribute, but I don't care. It means as much to me as telling me you've got blue eyes or brown eyes. Like, yeah, good thing, you know, unless you're a gorgeous girl who wants to be my girlfriend, then I might care. But outside of that, like, what do I care whether you've got blue or brown eyes or autistic or gay or trans or whatever? Like, I don't, like, fine, you are, like, I'll get to know you and I'll make my own judgments, and you know, that's how it is, and I think that's how most people are. So Frightful pigeon. You're a pigeon. I knew it. I knew it all along. Hello, Frightful. I knew you were a pigeon all along. Yeah, so like, I mean, that's just weird if you're saying you've got a condition when you don't, and maybe you're just doing it for attention. That's very weird. But again, like, it doesn't make any difference whether you are or you're not, in my opinion, because it has such little difference. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there are some conditions that are so bad, like let's say Tourette's, right? If you've got Tourette's and you start swearing at me, right, and I'm getting offended, but then I realize, oh, that's actually your condition. You're not actually trying to insult me. In those rare circumstances, then maybe it can excuse some behavior that is kind of like, okay, well, you know, that's just the Tourette's talking. That's not this person actually trying to piss me off. But that's a very rare thing. But like, generally speaking, I think, you know, whether you're, you know, whatever conditions you happen to have, at the end of the day, are you a decent person or are you an asshole? Right? At the end of the day, if you're an asshole, you're an asshole. It doesn't change anything. And if you're a decent person, you're a decent person. So like, you know what I mean? I think that's what really matters. And all these other labels don't really mean shit. They're just, like I say, they're just little confines that we all have to work around. But we all have them. No one's perfect. Everybody has something. So not in the same way as it's not, you know, it shouldn't be an obstacle in your life. You shouldn't sort of limit yourself because of these labels that you've been given. At the same time, it also doesn't excuse you if you know, want to do whatever you want to do and then blame it on this thing. Oh, well, I'm autistic, so I get to bully everybody and call everybody losers. Well, so what? You're still an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't excuse that. Like I say, maybe with Tourette's, if, you know, it's involuntary, that's why Tourette's is different, right? It's not what's in your mind, you're just kind of involuntary doing it, like a hiccup, you know, that's why it's different for Tourette's. But most people don't have Tourette's, right? Very few people have Tourette's. And it only affects things like speech. So in that rare situation, yeah, maybe it can excuse some strange behavior, you know, that somebody doesn't mean by it. But in most cases, it doesn't really change that much.
Yeah, I agree, as there aren't a lot of decent people.
Yeah, I agree. There aren't a lot of decent people on some of these social media types of platforms these days. I don't know. It's not too bad. I mean, I've been doing this for years now, right? And we haven't had that many. I still think the majority of people are decent on here, who have interacted with me. I think the majority of people are decent. And like I say, right, the trolls who are just being trolls, they're probably just stupid kids with nothing better to do, and it's just pathetic, and I feel sorry for them. And it's not really, it doesn't really matter that much. You should try not to let it get to you. But I think the majority of people are fine. I mean, yeah, you guys are fine. Anyway,
what's the most exciting project
you've worked on in game development
so far?
No, boo, I need to go get a shower. Leave me alone. Alright, I'm going to leave it there. I might be back, I might not be, but if not, thanks for joining, and I'll catch you later. Bye.